Um, just a little bit of a diversion here. So, we're talking about going through that due diligence process. Give me some advice, Bob, on my team. I mean, this is not a solo effort. I'm assuming you want to put together a team of people to help you go through this process. Talk to me a little bit about what types of people you should be
Okay,
looking.
well, you're going to need an attorney, and it's not just one attorney, because the knowledge that the attorney is going to need is in transactions and banking and labor,
Yep.
in employee benefits, maybe in environmental issues. So and real estate, possibly leases. You're
Right.
going to need a CPA.
So wait, so I have to interrupt you there, please. Your point about the attorneys, you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of people, I have clients that go into transaction. They have some business attorney, some guy is a contracts kind of guy and advise, but he's not an expert in environmental law, certainly not an expert in labor law. And these things are really important nowadays. This is a lot different than it was 20, 30 years ago. So it kind of tells you that either you need to get in, a lot of different attorneys, or you have to sort of bite the bullet and maybe go with a larger firm for a transaction like this that might have those resources. Does that make sense?
A larger firm, or with an attorney who has relationships with people in various areas.
Right.
We've bought businesses and been involved with sales of businesses where they had outposts, or they had offices in various states. We needed to retain attorneys in those states to just be certain that we were in compliance with the laws in those states.
Right. Right. Who are you in these transactions, Bob? Like, you're a consultant, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming your business is such that you would consult with both buyers and sellers depending on the transaction.
Yes.
So again, this conversation is about buying because that's what this book is about. So how would how would you help a buyer of a business?
Well, we try to, among the items is that I'd work with them on compiling their due diligence list, analyzing the due diligence, coordinating the efforts of the attorneys, as well as the CPAs, maybe the insurance people, the bankers, also speaking with suppliers that they'll continue to deal with us. One item that I always suggest that buyers do is possibly survey the customers of a business to see if they're happy. And you could do that on an anonymous basis. We could hire a college student to ask a few questions and use that data as an indicator of what's happening on this. But I work to coordinate everything on this.
That's great. That's great. One thing we didn't mention in this conversation, but it is mentioned in the book. It's worth mentioning is just the importance of also in your due diligence and evaluating the IT systems of a company as well, because we're in a big data world and data is really important. Do you have any thoughts on that? Evaluating a company's IT infrastructure or the data that they have?
Well, it needs to be looked at very carefully. 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer, people had their actual physical computers in their office. And in today's world, it makes a lot of sense to use the cloud and have cloud computing. I can't tell you how many times 7, 8, 9 years ago or more, the owners of businesses lived in fear that their IT person would quit. And now, to the extent that you could outsource that, it makes it easier. It also makes it easier for disaster recovery, for backups, that if there's a flood or there's a hurricane, something that you don't have to worry about that. And that's really important.